So, I mean, my Christmas came early, and I've had a boner ever since.
Oh, yeah, see, there you go. Bring it in. Bring it back, baby. Bring it back.
That was for you, Freeze.
There's my intro.
I got a boner for Christmas. Yeah, there you go.
Somehow, Marky, I know you're going to incorporate that into the lead-in.
On this episode of the John1911 Podcast, a Red Jacket AK, the Seneca Run, Cheaper Than Dirt Gets Bent, Dr. Jill Ain't.
Okay, good evening, everybody. This is Danny, Marky, and Freeze, and this is episode 197 of the John1911 Podcast. But Danny is already demanding that we call this the special Christmas edition episode because we're not sure if we're going to be able to get another one in before Christmas. So, as I said, it is Friday, December 18th. It's literally, like, as I finish this sentence, the clock will roll to 5:30 p.m. So, has everybody had a good day or good week so far?
Busy as hell, but it's not been a bad week. It's not been a great week, but, you know, I'm still kind of under the weather with my, my right leg and knee and all that shit. But I've had worse weeks, trust me.
Yeah, yes you have. Danny?
I just had the most fantastic week ever.
That's good.
That's awesome, dude. That's awesome, brother.
We discussed that off of pod, so
yeah.
Congratulations.
Kudos
Thank
to you,
you,
man. We appreciate it.
Good
That's awesome.
Good news. So
yes, it is.
Today, the reason why we're doing this pod last minute, this is a last minute pod for the listener at home, so this one may not be as structured as they normally are. Oh, wait a minute. Before we get started, let me ask for my benefit and for the listeners. Is anybody drinking right now?
I've got a Coke Zero in front of me.
Okay, all right. I just want to know how much time we have until we all get too drunk. And we all sound like, it's like, I don't want the podcast to all end like, I love you, man.
I love you, man.
All right.
No, I only have a water.
Okay, I have a water too, sparkling water.
I have a Coke Zero. It's my I allow myself like 3 or 4 Coke Zeros a week, and this is one of them.
That's good. So I have some good news. Freeze kind of knows this because I was sending him some text messages. I spent this all afternoon at the gun store doing secondhand showcase videos because my schedule opened up, and I was able to go through and film a bunch of it. And it is very difficult to film secondhand showcase videos when you want to buy half the stuff that you see.
Dude, what are you talking about? Half the stuff? You want to buy all of the stuff?
Well, yeah. I mean, literally, the John1911 Armory has run over $100,000 worth of firearms through that one FFL.
The only thing I'm going to say is, you're welcome, Dan.
Yeah.
And by the way, Dan will listen to this.
Yeah. Well, Marky, what piqued your interest this week?
Well, you know what? It's going to be there's surprise. There was, if you listen to the podcast, I guess you're going to get some heads up. So there was a rifle that I had never seen before, but I'd heard about this company, Red Jacket Firearms in Louisiana. The people.
Oh my God, they are a dumpster fucking fire. But yeah, we actually met these guys at an NRA show years ago.
Yeah, I don't remember. You were more interested in them than I was, but because you're an AK guy. But over at the shop, they had a Red Jacket AK, and
nice.
It was this is what they told me. I mean, again, I'm not an expert. It was a stamped receiver. Underfolder stock. They told me that the receiver was Polish, but okay. I'm not certain on that, but that's what they told me, so I'll put that on video. Okay. And this was a well-made gun. Like, they had done some stuff to this, and it had it had a really nice trigger. It had a trigger comparable to the Valmet we had.
Really?
Yeah, it was that good. I bet the Valmet's better, but not enough to be worth spending more money on.
Look,
I was
not
like,
not
shit.
not to offend any of our listeners that actually know of or remember Red Jacket firearms. It's not when I say they're a dumpster fire of a company. It's not that they put out crap. They actually put out some pretty amazing stuff.
That's my understanding.
But
Well, they did.
well, they did. I think how many of them are in prison still or have served prison time? I don't
Well, I
know. They
believe
might.
two of them. I think two, maybe three, have a criminal past. I'm not 100% certain on that. But only one isn't really went to prison seriously. The dad. This is the
Well,
company.
but do you remember the daughter reached out to us during the Chris Kyle days?
we're not going. We're not going to. We're not going to talk about that. But yeah, I mean, so
Okay,
yes,
yeah.
so because the daughter may listen to the podcast. So
Yeah, she may. Whatever.
This is the company that had the TV show in Baton Rouge, and they, like all these reality TV shows, they have to make up a bunch of drama. All this, like
Yeah, sure.
they
You gotta keep reality TV interesting.
Yeah, I never see them much at television, but I remember that there was an episode they were taking AR-15 rifles and semi-autos and daisy chaining them by the trigger into a fixture and making it into like a Gatling gun, some kind of weird non-machine gun machine gun, and and it was just this, it's this make work project for television. The whole thing doesn't make any sense because they just need something to do because you really can't have a show about a reality TV show. It's just today's the day at the gun store and everything's fine. And
today's the day we put a scope on this gun.
Right,
like,
exactly. And the thing is, especially when all you do is sell the same gun, like a gun store, a retail gun outlet, you never know what's going to come in. But if you just manufacture the same gun all the time. But it was interesting when I was talking to the local FFL about this gun. There was some confusion because I guess a lot of people do this. You get the Red Jacket people from Louisiana who went to jail confused with the Wheat Ridge people that were up outside of in Colorado somewhere, and they went to jail. And the thing is, and so when you start having these confusions, and then the next thing someone says, the one with the daughter, and then people they go, well, yeah, and you're talking about two completely different things. The Red Jacket one with the daughter, I'm not even going to say specifically what it is, but because I'm just out of respect. But the father went to prison and is still in prison and will spend the rest of his life in prison for what he did to his daughter. In Louisiana, that's Red Jacket, who the gun I was looking at today. The company up in Wheat Ridge had the really cute hot daughter that basically they had running around half naked all the time.
Was she the one that wore like the cowboy boots and the booty shorts?
Yes.
Yeah, the Daisy
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I remember her. Yeah.
A lot of people conflate those two businesses because the man that ran that store, I think, got in trouble for tax evasion, and then he got in trouble. He had agreed to give up his FFL and then was operating his store, if I recall off the top of my head, was operating his store using somebody else's FFL and was trying to get away with it. And, of course, they hammered him, and he went to jail.
See, the thing is, though, that almost reminds me of the Red Jacket thing. So I'm actually getting confused between the two companies.
A lot of people do.
Yeah, I know because I mean that's bizarre because I'm thinking when you just mentioned the whole operating the FFL under one of the other guys' names, I'm thinking Red Jacket Firearms. So I could be in that group you're talking about, which that's crazy.
So, but anyway, to get back to the secondhand showcase, and we'll edit some of them, but I'll tell you what, dude. I mean, look, an AK-47 with an underfolder stock sucks to shoot, especially on your cheek, but it's a well-made gun. I was like...
I'll tell you what, one of the best AKs I've ever owned was a Norinco AK underfolder with a spike bayonet on it. and it was put together. I can't remember the name of the company. They were based out of Atlanta, Georgia. But I tell you what, that was the best AK I ever owned, I ever fired. The thing was amazing. What it is this company in Atlanta, Georgia would bring in these AKs that, the receiver was cut up, and of course they would put their own receiver on them and put them in, and configure them to semi-auto, and sell them on the market. And back in the 90s, when AK-47s were selling for $300, I sold this thing for $950. And the truth is, this exact same gun that I sold for $950 in the 90s is worth like over $2,000 today. Because it's like the creme de la creme of AK underfolders on the market today. I wish I could remember the name of the company that put this together, but
I'm actually thinking that people will be leaning more towards the AK because you could get 7.62 where 5.56 is almost non-existent anymore.
That seems to be the case, that people are starting to show more interest in military surplus, or what we would call in the industry, we would call them non-standard firearms, which means a non-NATO caliber. There is an uptick in interest because the ammo is available.
But you know what though, as things push forward, and it has happened before, but X-39 ammo may become hard to come by, in a year or so from now.
Depending on what happens politically, yeah, because
exactly.
We'll address later in the podcast. There's definitely signs the ATF is back to fucking with people, but we'll deal with that at the end of the podcast. But anyway, another gun that I saw today, I'd never seen this before. I was like, what the hell is this? It's a 1861 Springfield model, 1861 Springfield musket, right? Yeah. And it was brand new manufacture, stainless steel metal, and it was manufactured by Colt, and it's for sale used in this shop. And it's just like, actually I'm looking at it up on the wall, it's just like a real 1861, which is really made in 1863 or 64 musket that we have here. But it's like, man, this thing it's so in such good shape.
No, hold on a second now. When you say I'm looking at it up on the wall, do you have that in the armory right now?
Yes.
Oh, you piece of shit. You piece of shit.
I knew it.
You are buying this gun, aren't you?
Oh, no, wait a minute. No. The Colt over at the gun store is still at the gun store.
Oh, okay. Okay.
No.
We thought you caved.
No.
Okay.
No.
You're saying the 1861 that's hanging on the wall of the armory is comparable to the one at the shop.
Except the one at the shop looks like it's brand new. What's interesting?
Well, because it is.
But what's interesting, the one at the shop, and you and I talked about this, because I sent you pictures. I'm shooting a video, and I took some pictures, and I was like, "Freeze, dude! What the hell is this? Find out what this is worth." And but it's like, this is like one of those guns like the P210, where it's like people on the internet will be like, oh, yeah, man, I wish somebody would, I wish Colt or Springfield would remake a brand new version of the Civil War gun, but, brand new furniture and make it in stainless steel. That way it's more corrosion resistant. And it's like, somebody makes that gun and it turns out it's a $1,500 gun, and nobody actually buys it. You know what I mean? And this looks like one of those.
Well, yeah. Let me throw you a little info on this gun. First off, it's a Colt put this gun together. It's not an Italian or a Spanish repro of an 1861 Springfield. It's actually because Colt did make the contract specials for the Springfield rifle. So this
during
is
the Civil War.
Yes, originally during the Civil War. So what Colt did is they're like, okay, we're going to put out a reproduction rifle of what we put out of the Springfield during the Civil War, and it's going to be the Signature Series, and it had Sam Colt's signature on the trigger guard, and it was a collectible, kind of like in the back of every NRA magazine where you see the 1911 or the M16, and it's got the Iwo Jima thing. It was kind of like a collectible type firearm. You know,
the John Wayne commemorative and all that
yeah,
stuff.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. So here's the thing. They put this out, and they sold a fair amount of them, but you know, it really wasn't. It kind of fell into the crack because guys that like to shoot original firearms aren't going to shoot a commemorative, and they're not going to pay extra for a commemorative if they can buy an Italian or a Spanish reproduction of the same exact rifle for $300 to $500 cheaper. You know, I mean,
Sure.
So it kind of fell on the into the cracks of the reproduction commemorative market. However, there's a couple things with this. There is a company out there that will take your Signature Series Colt reproduction rifle, and they will put original parts on there, and they will scrub the repro numbers and shit off there to make it more like an original rifle. Wow. They're not faking the rifle, but what they're doing is they're taking original Colt 1861 parts, like for example, if you want an original 1861 Colt hammer, for an extra $150, they'll put an original hammer on your gun and take the repro hammer off. I mean, it's kind of crazy, but you know, when you start getting into the reenactment / collector's field, I mean, people get weird, you know. If there's a market, they'll pay money for it.
And see, the thing is, I'm not a black powder guy, and I'm not a, like, I would say pre-1899 gun type of person. However, I have some deficiencies in character. And one of those deficiencies in character is, as I've gotten older, simpler guns have become more interesting to me. I call it the grandpa syndrome.
Well,
and
let me tell you something. When this secondhand showcase hits and you post pictures and videos of this gun is fucking gorgeous.
Oh yeah.
It's gorgeous.
But the thing is, we've got our own, we have our own range, we have our own property. Yeah. And I know for a fact, even though after gun season ended, because Officer Mike was back there doing stuff, and quote, he goes, "Dude, I bumped a huge deer back there. Like a giant deer survived gun season." And I happen to know, it's like, well, I know there's a muzzleloader season, and it's like, I sit there, just shoot it down, shoot it 200, 300 yards. I don't know. How long can you shoot? Like, I don't even know if these are actually rifled barrels or not. Are they rifled or muskets?
No, actually, the Colt is a musket.
Okay. So
it's a musket.
Maximum 200 yards? Maximum?
You know what? I mean, yeah, maybe maximum. But, I mean, if you're deer hunting with this gun, I think it's a 100-yard gun. I mean, realistically, not saying you can't take a deer at 200 yards with it, but if you want to put it in a 10-inch pie pan, I think it's a 100-yard gun.
Yeah, and see that makes it less appealing.
It's not rifled. I mean,
maybe I should just go to the wigwam thing or whatever at Friendship, Indiana.
Oh my God! Well, why do you call it the wigwam thing?
I don't know
racist Indian motherfucker.
What do they call that thing?
It's called the headquarters for the National Muzzleloading Rifle Association in Friendship, Indiana, and they have twice a year a rendezvous.
Rendezvous. It's the
There
rendezvous.
you go. It's not a fucking wigwam thing. God damn, you racist Indian bastard.
See, you know what? It's guys like you that keep guys like me out of black powder because you're so arrogant. I make one goddamn mistake and you jump all over me. It's like a gun forum.
Okay, I mean, but come on, wigwam? Jeez.
It's some weird word. Doesn't make any sense.
Okay.
But it's like, well, I like the idea it's a new gun. I like the idea that it's stainless steel. I mean, it still has wood on it. If it got soaking wet, the wood would swell. I mean, you got to take care of it, but
yeah, sure.
It's not like I'm trying to take the Ohio National Guard original 1863 production Springfield rifle off the wall, trying to run it to shoot deer and risk actually losing a piece of history. Yeah, it's a Colt commemorative, but it's not that valuable. Come on.
Yeah, well, see, the thing is, it's not really valuable at all because it's a reproduction. It's a Colt commemorative. Mm-hmm. I mean, honestly, it has a certain intrinsic value, of course, but it's not the same value as an original firearm.
Well, so check this out. So Freeze and I are communicating while I'm trying to film this video, and he's asking me questions. I'm like, yes, yes, yes. And then he goes, does it have Sam Colt's signature on the trigger guard? And I look and I'm like, oh shit, it does. And I'm starting to get nervous, like, what is this thing worth? And then he goes, does it have a bayonet and sling? And they didn't hand me one, and I wasn't filming with a bayonet or sling. So I go out there and I'm like, hey, does this have a bayonet or sling? They're like, nope. And it's like, that's why it's not top dollar. Because
exactly,
it's missing stuff.
It's missing. It probably doesn't have the original box. It probably doesn't have all the Colt Signature Series commemorative collectible paperwork because it came with the shit ton. The certificate of authenticity and all that bullshit.
Where are the Elvis Time Life commemorative plates?
Well, I mean, yeah, basically in a nutshell. Because if you're talking about commemorative collectible firearms, you have to have all that with it for it to bring top dollar. But in all fairness, what they're asking for it is not top dollar, and I still think it's a very fair price. Well, and I won't get into that, but I won't get into the price, but what they're asking for it. For what it is, even though it's not a complete package, I think it's a very fair deal.
Okay, Freeze. At the Wigwam Fest or the Rendezvous or whatever you want to call it. Okay,
Wigwam Fest. Oh my God.
Well, let me finish. They have of course, albeit on a much smaller scale, they have a rendezvous up here. And we went over to watch it once. These people were in the period correct clothing. It was along a creek, so they paddle up in these birch bark canoes. I swear to God they were. I mean, these guys are deep. Looks like they haven't had a bath for a month. I mean, and they just live this stuff more than anything I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something, Danny. Back in, I guess it was, 1987, 88, 89, I'm not sure which year. I spent 2 weeks in Friendship, Indiana wearing the same pair of fucking leather buckskins, sleeping in a teepee with buffalo robes for 2 weeks. Because I was a member of the NMLRA, and I used to participate at Friendship for years.
National Man-Boy Love Association? You remember?
No, we are not talking about NAMBLA. God,
all I'm hearing is leather and something that sounds like NAMBLA. So,
Freeze! I would love to see you in ass cheek, your ass cheeks hanging out and a pair of chaps on.
Okay. Now hold on. No, hold on a second. Hold on a second. That's the difference between my National Muzzle Loading Rifle Association days, by the way, opposed to my biker days. Assless chaps were biker days. Regular buckskins were the NMLRA days.
There's no such thing as assless chaps because chaps that had an ass are called pants.
Yeah, exactly. Look, the truth is, all chaps are assless. Real chaps, yeah. I mean, okay,
Well,
but mind you, Marky points this out, so you know.
Okay.
well, these guys at the rendezvous, I'm telling you, they were bare-assed with those chaps on.
Yeah. Well, now,
No,
wait a
I
minute.
mean-
Hold on. In all seriousness, it's my understanding, and I've heard this from multiple people. I've heard it even from, like, some people on the internet, on YouTube people, that the rendezvous, Wigwam Rendezvous in Friendship, Indiana, is the Black Powder's version of the SHOT Show. Like, it's the big one. Is that
Yes.
true?
Okay, they have two of them a year. There's the spring and the fall shoot. The spring shoot is the equivalent of like the SHOT Show. The
okay.
fall shoot is a shorter period of time, and it's a good time, but it's not the big one. It's the mini one, so to speak. But yes, it is when you're into black powder and you're into primitive reenacting. Yes, the Friendship, Indiana spring shoot is the equivalent of SHOT Show, or if you're into military collection, it's the equivalent of the Max.
Yeah. See, the thing is, like, do you when you go to that, like,
Yeah.
what's the name of the during the Civil War? There was a was it the? I think it starts with a W. There was a type of sniper that shot a certain type of rifle that might have even had a scope on it that was notorious. Like, I mean, you know, like flag officers were getting picked off. Like, I'm trying. Would you see Civil War era sniper rifles at this thing at the rendezvous in Friendship?
Okay, what you're talking about is the Whitworth rifle.
Yes, the Whitworth.
Yes. Okay, and yeah, I mean, the thing is, you do see things like that, but not really. I mean, this is okay. The rendezvous that you go to is basically dealing with the 1820s, 1830s, 1840s trappers. You're not really dealing with the Civil War, but the thing is, you do see a lot of Civil War era rifles there, especially in competition. Not so much in the rendezvous, where when you're out in the primitive area and people are sitting in front of campfires playing bluegrass music in front of wedge tents and teepees, you're not really seeing Civil War shit there so much. But on the firing line, when they're in the competitions, yeah, you do see Civil War era rifles. And I'm not like one of my favorite. Mind you, when I was a lot younger back then, and I had knees, they had a meet that was called the Seneca Run, and what it is, it was like a mile-long course up through the hills and dales of the area where you would run, and you would have your rifle. Mind you, you're carrying a black powder, you know, like I carried a .45 caliber Hawken rifle. And you have your possibles pouch, which has your powder, your balls, your patches, you know, all your shit in it. And you would run and shoot at different targets throughout this mile-long course. And they judged you on time and accuracy of your targets. And whoever won an actual Thompson Center Seneca rifle. That's why it was called the Seneca Run. By reference, I never actually came close to ever winning this, but Marky's heard the story about the trap shooting contest where the 12-year-old girl won.
Yeah, because she kicked your ass and everybody else's.
Dude, she smoked me. And this is a black powder trap shooting contest where using, I was using a 12-gauge double barrel shotgun, black powder. And I came close to winning. This 12-year-old girl smoked everyone in the competition. Of course, her father was a pretty big trap shooter,
Well, but it's interesting that you described the Seneca Run, and it literally, in like the training industry, that sounds just like what people today would call a jungle lane.
Yes, exactly. It pretty much is. Yes.
The original jungle lane is a Seneca Run.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
That's interesting.
And the thing is, but when I talk about like the trap shooting competition and the Seneca Run, if you're not a member, if you're just going down there to party and hang out and enjoy the festivities, because there's a huge flea market, there's a lot of things to see. It's kind of like going to any other event. See, those people don't get to see those things. You have to be a member to be in that area for those things.
SHOT Show's the same way. You've got the real stuff, like you've got the law enforcement side, you've got the whatever side, and then, maybe down on the second floor or the lower level is kind of, there's some good stuff down on the lower level.
Yeah.
But there's some schlock down there too.
Yeah. Exactly.
And it's the flea market section of the SHOT Show. Small companies that don't have a lot of money, they start with a booth down there and they hope one day to have enough business to move up to the top floor. I'm sure it's the same thing.
No, it's the exact same thing. And look, and the thing is, if anyone lives in the Midwest area, if you have the time to spend a day at Friendship to experience the fun, I strongly recommend it. It's a good time. It really is. I don't do it anymore because, I'm not a member of the NMLRA because I got out of black powder. I got out of reenacting years and years ago. And honestly, I don't have the time, energy, or the physical strength to just do it anymore.
Yeah, dude, we're all getting older. I'm actually nursing a very painful hip injury right now. I sound like an old man, but yeah.
Oh, dude.
I get there. I know what you're talking about.
But the thing is, if you've never been there and you have the opportunity to just swing by, even if it's just to spend the afternoon there, I fully recommend it. It's a good time.
It's on my to-do list. It's just been, we've been dealing with range construction because we don't live that far from it.
Well, the owners of the and I'm not going to name names, but the owners of Mitchell Range.
Yeah.
Okay, and they're probably, as the crow flies, from Mitchell Range to Friendship, they're probably within 10 miles.
Okay.
Okay, and frankly, the our range to Friendship, Indiana.
Yeah, we're not going to go into that. So,
but every year they take the Kubota. They drive the Kubota to Friendship every year for the spring shoot.
They don't even have to take a truck. They just take their
they just jump in their Kubota and drive. Now it takes them a little extra because they're in a Kubota and not in a regular real vehicle, but Kubota only goes so fast. But they take the Kubota down to Friendship every year and hang out and have a good time because that's just like, what the hell? It's a great.
My interest in black powder is kind of like just so I can have an expanded gun season, out there at the range. And, I like the idea of accurate rifles. And if I could get one that's rifled, not a musket, and, shoot accurately and just kind of figure it out, it just seems like a good day. But there is the deer hunting aspect, and I want to segue into a deer hunting story that I think is worth mentioning. I don't think either of you two have seen this. Speaking of 12-year-old girls, this is a 14-year-old girl.
14-year-old girl, yes, I heard. Yes.
14. I'm going to go ahead and say her name because she has earned it.
Shit, yeah, she did.
14-year-old girl from Kansas, young lady from Kansas, named Paisley Worth, Werth, has shot a world record breaking 42-point whitetail buck. Now, this isn't a buck that breaks the records in Kansas.
No. It's a non-typical, but it's a world record for the amount of scorable points.
Yeah, for the entire known world of bucks.
Yes.
And this thing
she broke a second record.
What was the second record?
The second record is she broke the record for being the woman who shot the most amount of points on a buck as well. So
so she has the top tier record. Then she has a subset because it's a female too.
Of subset because she's a female. Yes.
Yeah. Well, you know what? The one that everybody counts is number one.
Yeah, that's true. But hey, you know what? If you can hang 2 plaques on your wall, it's better than one.
That's, you know what? That's fine. You know, that's, you know, I mean, she's number one, and that's all. You know, it wouldn't matter.
No, that's all. But did you see a picture of this buck she shot?
I'm looking at it right now, and here's
oh
the
my
thing.
God, it's amazing.
And here's the scary part. You look at this thing, Danny. Have you seen this?
Yes, I did.
And
yes,
I guess
that thing's a monster.
It looks like, I mean, this thing looks like something like out of like a John Carpenter movie. If this thing came out of the woods, you know, it'd scare half of them to death.
It came out of the ice and Alien.
It's like this thing is crazy. And
you know, and the awesome thing about it, and all the deer hunters out there will know this, because when you do shoot a big buck, when it's in your sights, I mean, you may know it's a big buck, but you don't really know the ramifications of it till after it's down on the ground and you're standing next to it. So, you know, this buck came up and she's just like, oh my God, this is a monster fucking buck. And she shot it. Good for her.
See, did she shoot it gun or did she shoot it archery? They haven't actually said, which I find irritating because they don't want to say because the frickin' media, including Fox News, sucks.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm suspecting she shot it with gun.
I do have the numbers on the buck though. So I've got the green score, then I've got the official score.
Okay.
The green score is like when you shoot a buck, when you shoot you shoot a deer with antlers and you want to have it measured for record, it has to dry for 60 days.
Yes.
And it can shrink.
Yeah.
Because, you know, things kind of dry out, like, you know, shriveled up bodies. So
sure.
The original buck, the green score, unofficial, was 282 6/8 and showed 44 points.
Okay.
Wow.
The dry period, it was given the official score of 271 4/8 with 42 points.
See, and here's the crazy thing. Inches wise, she didn't break the record because there have been bigger bucks inches wise, but no bucks preceded her point wise, and that in itself is amazing. Now, look, I don't want to sit there and say, oh, well, you know, she didn't get the world record for inches because, you know, as far as I'm concerned, screw inches. 44 points?
40. It was the record. It's the official record. The green score is 44. The official's 42 points.
Okay, 42 points? Screw that. I don't give a shit if it's 2 inches or 2,000 inches. 42 points is amazing.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I mean, that's amazing.
According to this article, they have family members. It's on her property. Like, shouldn't go to like some preserve. It's on her family's property. Apparently, they've seen this buck for 3 years, and her father passed on it, shooting it one season, and her sister passed on it. And both times, the reason they passed on it, they said, quote, it was pretty broken up, like it had been fighting and was pretty damaged.
So they saw this massive tumble of antler and thought it was just a screwed up rack.
Maybe, but I bet you it's probably, you know, not all of those points are probably as durable. You know what I'm saying? Like, by the time they see it.
Well, but hold on a second now. You have to understand, on a whitetail deer, they lose their rack every freaking year. So
that's what I'm saying.
So when the father and the sister passed up on that rack, it might have been a screwed up rack. Mm-hmm. I mean, it might have been half whacked off, because when you get that many points, look, when a deer is scraping their rack on a tree, you know, to get the velvet off, I mean, with that many points, he could have snapped half the freaking rack off.
I mean, like, looking at the points on this rack, and we won't stay on this for too long because we're not the hunting channel, But like, I don't even know how he got the velvet off half these damn things.
I
Like,
know
it's like,
I mean, obviously you're going to post a picture in the comment section.
Yeah,
but it's like, oh
you
my
know,
God, it's crazy.
just,
This
you
thing-
know, like, look, 2020 sucks. It's been a tough year, but for this girl,
you know what?
her family, 2020 is going to be remembered for just something fun and good, and I'm so happy for her.
And you
I
know
love
what?
the story.
Good for her, because you know what? Someone needs to have a goddamn good 2020. You know?
Well, I'll tell you. Speaking of having a good 2020, and getting screwed over. I don't know if you guys have heard. You're aware that with like when Obama became president, it looked like Hillary was going to win, or the Sandy Hook shooting, and just all these different things that happened. Cheaper Than Dirt has developed a reputation for a lot of its price gouging.
Yeah, screw cheaper than dirt. But now here's the thing. You're going to bring up a point I heard about, but I don't know any details about it because I saw the blurb on it, but I didn't deep dive into it. So,
let me see here. It is the state of Texas. Apparently, Cheaper Than Dirt might be based in Fort Worth. It's not coming up here, but I guess the Texas Attorney General. Here we go. The Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton has accused a Fort Worth-based website Cheaper Than Dirt, which primarily sells firearms, ammunition, and hunting gear, of price gouging at the start of the pandemic. The AG's office identified over 4,000 sales that involved price gouging and has directed Cheaper Than Dirt to pay $400,000 in refunds to customers.
well, you know what? Good for the Attorney General.
Let's see
because
here.
look,
hold on. I've got some more data here. Hold on. Early in the
Okay.
pandemic-fueled buying binge, readers were sending us screen grabs from Cheaper Than Dirt's website showing 5.56 ammo priced at $9.70. This was at a time when other retailers were selling the same ammo for $4.50, but that isn't apparently what all customers were seeing. Let's see here. Making these minimum real time. Apparently, Cheaper Than Dirt was, if I understand correctly, was even changing prices in shopping carts. So people were
that's
like,
interesting. Yeah,
it's like, like people would be like, I've got this, and here's a screen grab. Like they've seen it, and it's whatever, and they're like, I'm going to grab that. I need a case of that. Put it in their shopping cart, and then they go to check out, and they're like, what the fuck? But they went ahead and bought it anyway because they were desperate. But the thing is, the screen captures from the history were still in the browsers, and you can prove it. And you can, they real time can show that they were upping people's prices in shopping carts.
But back in the Obama days, back in the 8 years
Well,
of Obama,
this was this year.
No. I'm just saying. But Cheaper Than Dirt got a reputation for price gouging back during the Obama days. I mean, this Cheaper Than Dirt does not have a good reputation in the gun community, and they haven't for a long time.
People got really pissed off at Cheaper Than Dirt. I remember, like, I never really paid attention to them, but it was like it was personal. People were cranked about Cheaper Than Dirt. So, all right, Danny, what do you got going on? Anything you want to talk about?
No. Do you want the off the wall stuff that's factual, or you want factual that's off the wall? Which
Give me
one?
the off the wall stuff at first, because once we start talking about pistol braces and the ATF, it's going to go forever. And so,
okay. All right. Well, here's what I got.
Out of the way.
I have 3 lead-ins.
Okay.
General Flynn went on record today saying that Trump should have an election redo with the armed forces watching all the polls.
Okay,
all right,
well, that's never going to happen.
That's not
right.
Happen, so.
I understand. Okay, number 2. The Pentagon has stopped sharing any and all information with the incoming Biden administration.
What?
Yes.
On what basis?
They're not saying. They just the Biden campaign is basically crying that all the information has dried up and nothing is being released.
Well, I'm hearing this for the first time. I've been busy, but Biden should be getting the PDBs every morning, the presidential daily briefs.
He
And
should.
So the PDBs
Okay.
have military stuff in it. And here's the thing: the Pentagon does not put the PDBs together. As a matter of fact, as I recall, the CIA puts the PDBs together.
And then finally, there is a supposed giant Russian cyber attack going on with a lot of the United States security systems.
Yeah, I've heard that there's. I heard that they broke into Treasury, got hit pretty hard, and I can't remember who else, but I heard Treasury got hit pretty hard, and apparently the Treasury hit has been going on since at least May. They used it. They found a weakness in an outside vendor, and the outside vendor was issuing updates, and this update enabled the nefarious actor because they hacked the vendor. The vendor issued an update. That update then inserted the monitoring code on these computers because it was a centralized update, and it enabled a foreign state to monitor what was going on these computers remotely for at least 6 months.
Well, and I saved the best for last. Supposedly, Trump has got a very short or very long list within a short time of pardons that he's going to grant.
Oh, I don't doubt that for a minute.
No, that's pretty standard for the courts.
Yeah. Well, I guess here's the question. Okay, because there's been grumblings we've been hearing. We didn't even talk about. We didn't even cover this on the rundown like what we're going to cover on the podcast today. Julian Assange and Snowden. Do you think he's getting pardons for Assange and Snowden?
Sure. Why not?
Yeah, I think so too.
I'm thinking so too.
Yeah.
I think everybody's pissed off at. I don't really, unless there's something I don't know or not privy to as to why the U.S. government would be really pissed off at Assange. I mean, he's a foreigner. It's like he got access to some shit. It sucks, but you know what? The Pentagon Papers, just whatever. It sucks, but it gets out. It gets out. You don't go after. You didn't put the New York Times in jail for the fucking Pentagon Papers. So Julian Assange, whatever. Snowden's a different case, and I've gone back and forth on Snowden over the years because this has been happening for a long time. Snowden, without doubt, committed in what I feel like is treason. Like Snowden took an oath. He worked for, I can't remember which company he worked for, but he had access to these systems. He's a U.S. citizen. He knew what he was doing. He knew the access, the clearance he was given. Well, here's the thing. Julian Assange never had a security clearance. Julian Assange never was a contractor. You know what I mean? Julian Assange isn't in the system. Snowden's in the system. But what I don't like about Snowden, and look, all the shit's out. The damage has been done. I don't like the fact that Snowden today is living in Moscow, can't go anywhere. I'd rather have him here. Like, just, you know what? Just get his ass a pardon. As much as it burns me, I'd rather give him a pardon, have him cooperate, have him come home. Let's all have a conversation. There's been political, changes in this country about spying and the intel communities, and a lot of this stuff since 9/11, especially since what has happened to Trump into 2016 with Crossfire Hurricane and all the spying they did on. You remember they bugged his wires, and I've come around to give Snowden a pardon, bring him in. Let's just have a conversation. No one's going to jail. Let's get him on Team America. Let's just move forward here. And the thing is, only Donald Trump can do that because no Republican's going to want to give Snowden a pardon because right-wing military hawks like me would scream. No liberal wants to give Snowden a pardon because he's made a lot of them look bad.
Yeah, well, you speak about pardons. Someone said that Trump should pardon Hillary, Holder, Comey, all of them, then that way it's on a forever record.
Yeah, I thought if I sent that to you or somebody had, that's a theory. And the thing is, like the theory is, why would you have to give them a pardon if they have nothing to, nothing to, here's a perfect, like, was it John Brennan? This is a perfect example of why the country is so fucked up right now. I think it was Brennan. They asked Brennan under oath, or they had asked him something about Hunter Biden. They were like, well, there's stories about Hunter Biden and all this and this. This was last year or earlier this year or whatever it was, last year. And Brennan actually said, he's like, well, sir, we have reason to believe that's Russian disinformation. It's like, well, actually, turns out, no, there's 2 investigations into Hunter Biden, and we've all known at least some of the Hunter Biden and China shit for years. I mean, like, during the primaries, a lot of us were like, there's no way Joe Biden runs. All the China shit will come out. Remember that?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, and it's just like, and like, so the thing is, everything has changed politically, and only Donald Trump can go, kind of like how only Nixon can go to China, only Trump can go to the pardon route. And here's the thing. Donald Trump is such a, Donald Trump takes shit personal. And, most, like, I don't know, like any normal Republican would be like, I'm not going to issue pardons against Hillary and against Comey or for Hillary, for Comey and all that, just a virtue signal. I'm not going to do that game. I think Donald Trump would fucking do it. Because reality is none of these fuckers are going to jail anyway.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, that really
is
that
Hunter
really
Biden. Okay, like let's just have a real goddamn conversation here. Okay. Donald Trump was president. All right, 4 years, very popular president. His one of his campaign managers, because he kept going through them. Who's the guy with the peacock leather jacket? What was his name, Danny?
I'm thinking of it right now. Not Lewandowski. It's
no, I like Lewandowski.
I do too. I like him a lot.
This guy's a bloated.
I know who you mean.
This guy's a bloated, alcoholic, old GOP insider that the Republican Party foisted on the Trump. Like Trump did not. They brought him to Trump. And he's the guy
like Roger Stone. They brought him to
Roger
Trump.
Roger Stone and Trump are buddies. No, this guy, I can't remember his name. The listener knows who we're talking about. But here's the thing. That guy was having contact with, all these people in Ukraine. He wasn't reporting all this income. He, evading taxes. He didn't register as a foreign agent. And here's the thing. That motherfucker is still in fucking jail. He went to jail when Donald Trump was president. Any of you think in the next 4 years, Hunter Biden will go to jail if his dad's in the White House? No fucking
no.
Well, it's funny you say that because Barr came out today and he said that basically, hey, this information on Hunter Biden did not need to be released because when you are basically going after someone's family, it should not influence the election outcome in any way, which is why nothing was really released. He said that today.
That's actually not none of that. Well, hold on. You said which is why none of that was released. That statement you just made is factually untrue, and I can prove it to you. You have a misunderstanding of what Bob Barr said.
Then I'm missing it somehow.
I shall help you.
Why, thank you.
Let's go back to James Comey. Okay, James Comey was a director of the FBI, and Loretta Lynch, who was the Attorney General, she had recused herself in all the Hillary stuff because there was the meeting she had with Bill on the tarmac. She was forced to recuse herself. Okay, so she delegated it to the director of the FBI. Hence, that's why you don't hear the AG talking about it and you hear Comey talking about it. There is an understanding in the Justice Department, and it's for good reason. We have institutions and the ways of doing business. There's good reasons for why we got to where we got. And one of the reasons is we don't want to use the Justice Department to go after our political enemies. Or, okay, hey, Don Jr. is running for president. Oh, what do you know? We're releasing information that we're going to, we have a new investigation going against Don Jr. Because maybe he brought rhinoceros horns into the U.S. and wasn't allowed to do it. There's a federal investigation. It's not been resolved yet, but wink, wink, it started. So the Justice Department does not release that stuff publicly. And what I'm about to tell you is proof. It's proof why Fox News sucks. Because the Fox News and the conservative media is trying to convince our listeners that Bob Barr kept this secret from all of you. Okay? Seriously, that's what they're doing. And all these conservative media outlets, even the alternative conservative media outlets, are trying to hammer Bob Barr. Let me go back to James Comey. Comey realizes coming up on an election, they don't want to talk about they don't generally like to go after politicians unless it's something really bad in the middle of a political season. All of a sudden, the New York office, FBI office shows up. They got this fucking laptop with all this crazy bullshit on it. Like, it's crazy what's on this laptop. They've kind of kept it hidden, but a clue would be that that guy went to jail. But
Wiener,
that's right. Wiener went to jail. So look, James Comey is no sucker. I mean, James Comey is a smart dude. He is. He's a son of a bitch, but he's a smart dude. And he was kind of put in a tough spot. He's like, look, we're not supposed to make any comments on this kind of stuff, on investigations, because commenting on investigations publicly can affect the jury pool. It can affect the news coverage. And very few people in life have more power than a prosecutor. A prosecutor can come out on television, lay out an indictment against Marky at the John1911 Armory, and make me look like a son of a bitch with just no proof because there hasn't been a trial. That's unethical, but they can do it. And, in cases where it's so obvious, if it turns out Marky's Charles Manson and he wants to come out and say nasty shit about me, no one really talks about how unethical it is. But for average people in average cases, it's not as clear. So Comey now is sitting here. He's got this information from the New York office. They're 2 weeks out from an election. And he's like, this shit's going to come out. And it's going to look like that the FBI held this, just like how the Hunter Biden stuff. Comey was afraid that was going to happen. And like, they're going to blame us. They're going to blame me. So what does Comey do? Comey, since now he's not Loretta Lynch. He's a career operative bureaucrat. He doesn't have as much political pull as everybody else does. So he basically defaults to his constitutional obligation to report to the oversight of his department, which is he needs to inform Congress in a letter that this is what's going on. So James Comey did not release that this shit was public. James Comey did not come out and say Anthony Weiner's laptop and Hillary's emails and Uma Abedin. He didn't do any of that. That wasn't on Fox News. That wasn't what happened. Was he wrote 2 letters, or a couple letters. He wrote them to the House and Senate Intelligence Committees. He wrote them to the House and Senate Judiciary Committees. He wrote them to the leadership of the party in power and the leadership of the party not in power. So there's like at least 6 letters. And guess what happens when you send a letter like that to frickin' Capitol Hill?
It gets leaked.
It gets leaked in about 5 goddamn minutes. James Comey didn't leak that. James Comey didn't come out on television. So now let me go forward and tell you why Fox News needs to go out of fucking business. And here's why. Okay, they're now coming out and they're telling all of us about the Hunter Biden investigations, right? Why didn't breathless coverage? Why didn't Bob Barr tell us all about this? Why didn't we? Why do we have to know it now? Why didn't we know this before the election. And of course, Donald Trump, he watches. Look, this is where Donald Trump looked as wrong. Donald Trump watches these channels and he gets his talking points from them. So if they're wrong, they make him think wrong. Okay? Look, do you think for one goddamn minute that Fox News, New York Times, CNN, ABC, NBC, CBS, Breitbart, all of these goddamn, well, maybe not Breitbart, but all of these news outlets in Washington and New York, that none of them had any clue about the Hunter Biden investigations? Do you really think, Fox News, do you honestly believe Fox News had nobody in the Fox News organization, not a single person in that fucking building in September or October didn't know that Hunter Biden was under 2 investigations by the federal government?
Oh, I'm sure they knew everything, but they didn't divulge it.
And they didn't report it. They didn't fucking report it. So why the fuck is Bob Barr getting fucking blasted? It's not his job to goddamn report it. This is why I hate all these fuckers. And this is why I hate Fox News. And most of this media, what they do is they write these bullshit headlines and they get everybody all pissed off and they don't even know how shit's supposed to work, and it's just clickbait. And it's wrong. And it's an example of the conservative media is not doing justice to the Republican Party and to the voter. Because it's a lie. If you are running around and you're blaming Bob Barr for not, quote, releasing the Hunter Biden shit, you're being lied to and somebody is fucking with you.
Well, here's the thing also, on a different perspective. Now that Barr leaves next week for good, they say. But now that Barr's going to be gone, Trump is going to be gone, all the others, do you think the Justice Department will still follow through with these investigations, or will they get squashed?
There seems to be a debate right now within Justice, and I actually have lost contact with my contact at the Justice Department in Washington. They have moved on. But the argument is, and again, we won't know, but the argument is that they're going to create special counsels because they've made Durham a special counsel. They've actually invoked him to be special counsel status to look into the Russiagate investigation, kind of like special counsel's not as bad as the independent counsel statute with Ken Starr and Whitewater, but it becomes a separate thing. It's really just like Bob Mueller. With the Russia investigation, Bob Mueller was a special counsel. They've now created a special counsel for Russiagate, and the argument is, will the Trump administration create special counsels to investigate, at very least, Hunter Biden? And I think there's a good chance of it, because once you create these special counsels, the reason they create these is the idea of you can't trust the government to investigate itself, so you have to have a non-biased group or entity that can operate independently, and Nancy Pelosi or Donald Trump can be like, do something, you suck, and they're like, fuck you, we're the special counsel, suck my dick. I mean, they don't care. Basically, we get a budget, you have to pay us the money, and we do what we want. And there's a good chance that Donald Trump is setting up. Donald Trump will roll out a bunch of pardons as giant fuck yous, and he'll set up at least 2 special counsels as torpedoes to launch them at the Biden administration. Absolutely. Yep. I think that's absolutely true. I don't think Trump has decided if he's going to run again in 2024, but he's not going to. He's not going to just sit back and take the last 4 fucking years. And I still think there's a very, very good chance that Trump's going to make a run at Iran.
That's my theory.
I don't disagree with you on the run for Iran. I do disagree with you. I don't think Trump will run in 2024. I don't think it's going to happen. He's old, and I think he's going to recoup over the next 4 years. And he may do things over the course of the next 4 years that may put a thorn in Joe Biden and Camel Toe Harris's side.
Here we go.
Yeah, but I honestly can't see him doing a 2024 run. But you know what though? I could see maybe in 2028 Trump's son running.
They're obviously floating the potential for Don Jr. to maybe do some stuff, because like they were trying to float him as president of the NRA. He's like, no, I'm not going to do that. And and like, what's his girl? What's the girl? Kimberly. Who's his girl? Who's his squeeze? What's the girl from
Guilfoyle?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Guilfoyle.
Guilfoyle.
Something
Kimberly
like that.
Guilfoyle. Let me tell you something. Kimberly Guilfoyle will do, and I'm not trying to say anything that's. Kimberly Guilfoyle is attractive, and she's smart, and she's driven, and she goes after men that can give her what she wants. And I can't think of any, quote, wife that would want to be in the White House more than Kimberly Guilfoyle. That woman will suck a golf ball through a garden hose from New York City to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue to sleep in the White House. And I like Kimberly Guilfoyle, but trust me.
No, I like her too, but I've never really I've never actually used that analogy with her.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll be honest with you, I don't necessarily disagree.
My point is, Don Jr.'s like, man, you know what? It might be good to take a break from all this and maybe just go back to shooting some guns and hunting and maybe going on safari. And Kimberly Guilfoyle is in his ear like, man,
fuck you! You're running for president.
She all of a sudden she just starts going down on him, and she just keeps saying the White House. It's like every time like she somehow's doing. I guarantee you, she's one of the biggest influences to try to get him to run. Because look, if he runs and crashes and burns and looks like an asshole, doesn't hurt her.
No,
I mean she may not even stay with him.
No, maybe not.
And you know what? He's the son of a billionaire, and if she marries him and then leaves him, she's going to get a nice piece.
Sure.
I mean, look, you know what? I guess the title of this podcast is, no matter what happens, Kimberly Guilfoyle's getting paid. So
wow. Gee. Oh, wow. Ouch. I never really would have thought that this podcast would have actually boiled down to that. But you know what? It's kind of true.
Yeah, it is true. And look, I like Kimberly Guilfoyle. I mean,
so do I. No, trust me, I like her too. She's smart. She's really got her shit together.
But here's the thing: I have to talk about Kimberly Guilfoyle the way I talk about Donald Trump. I am not going to sit here and pretend that Donald Trump is some born again Christian, and I'm not going to pretend that Kimberly Guilfoyle is like Callista Gingrich, Newt's wife. Like this. She's literally Callista Gingrich is literally the U.S. ambassador to the Vatican right now. That's how Catholic she is.
So
I've seen Callista Gingrich sing in a choir at church.
Okay, regardless of that, you know what impresses me about Guilfoyle is she doesn't have a doctor in front of her name.
Oh.
Yeah, I went
Dude,
there.
I am so glad you brought that up.
Yeah, I fucking went there.
I'm so glad, because I actually... Okay, who's going to tell the story? Who's going to explain what this is about? Because
you know what?
I've been talking too much.
Jump in. No, jump into it, because, look, here's the thing.
Danny's got it.
I personally know 6 different guys who have doctorates that don't use the doctor nomenclature because they're not PhDs.
Freeze, why don't you lead in by saying it's Joe Biden? That would make it easier.
Yeah, well, I think everyone listening to this podcast knows what I'm referring to.
Hey, ladies, I'm not really a doctor, but I play one in the bedroom. So
yeah, hell yeah, I do.
Yeah. So
I don't even have a phony doctorate, but call me doctor.
I have an ex-girlfriend story that actually pertains to this story. So I want Danny. Danny, are you up to speed on the Dr. Jill thing?
Yes, and how certain people are asking her to quit using that title because it's basically a phony title. I'm not fully in depth in it, but I'm aware of the the headline.
Well, do you know what she's a doctor of?
No, I do not.
She doesn't even actually. There's a couple issues here. Number one, she's the presumptive first lady, and every time first lady is always going to take a hit. But I remember when she was in the White House, and it was Dr. Jill Biden, and I was just like, and I assumed she had a PhD. Excuse me, I assumed she had a PhD, and I was like, oh, barf. Like, here's the thing: Condoleezza Rice has a PhD. Okay. Secretary of Defense Casper Weinberger had a PhD. General Petraeus had a PhD. Like, there's PhDs all over the place. But only in certain academic settings, if you're an academic, would you use the phrase doctor or professor. Doc, who works here, is a PhD. And, we call him Doc because that's his nom de guerre for the website, but he's not a medical doctor. But the thing is, how do I say this? She doesn't have a PhD, Doc. She's got some kind of weird,
it's in
it's in
English.
education.
I think it's in English. It's English or math, one of the two.
No, it's not math. She's got She's got some kind of. There's some little degree that they've put before a PhD that they created for academics who work in education, educators, to get this degree so they can, quote, be doctor. Like you have like a principal of elementary school who's a doctor.
Yeah. But,
or that, like you see that in academic circles. It's not a philosophical doctor. It's not a PhD.
Okay. Let me interject. Okay. How many times over the course of the last 10 years have you heard either an interview with Ben Carson or a mention of Ben Carson where they just said Ben Carson opposed to Dr. Ben Carson?
Oh, it gets even better.
And Ben Carson was a real fucking surgeon.
Oh, it gets better than that. Dr. Ben Carson is a brain surgeon.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah.
He's okay. And look, we've talked about this on pod before, but I mean, I know many people that are in the pharmaceutical industry and physical therapy industry. I know a lot of people in the medical industry, and they have doctorates. So, but they're not. But and can they technically use the term Dr. Joe Schmo? I guess they could because they do have doctorates, but none of them, and I mean seriously, out of all the people I know that own doctorates, do they use the moniker of doctor in front of their first name? No, they don't, because they're not doctors.
Yeah.
They have a doctorate in their degree, but they're not doctors.
Well, here's the thing. In some cases, they don't have, like, doctorate presumes either MD or PhD, but in some cases, these doctor monikers are being hung on people that don't have an MD or PhD. Jill Biden does not have an MD or a PhD. I can't remember what her degree is, but it's not a PhD. It's something that, the something doctorate. It's some fake thing that they made up. It's not as like a full-blown PhD. So here's a couple things. And I'll tell two stories. One goes back to when I was in college, and then the other one comes much later in life with a woman that I dated. And they are intricately related in terms of title. So in college, and I've told the story before. In college, there was a guy who I had. I'm not going to give his name. He's a PhD, and he was a doctor. But he was a high level professor, and everybody was scared shitless of the man. And he was kind of like a Professor Kingsfield character. If you older listeners that kind of very much like Professor Kingsfield, or older listeners who might remember that TV show, The Paper Chase, from years ago. And I loved him because he was like, you walked in his class every day. You better be ready. He's going to cut your head off. He was ready to go. And he's an old man. And I remember one day he walked in he walked into the class and he was distracted. And he stood up there, and he had a science degree, PhD in math, and like it was a logic class. Like he was it wasn't he was a science PhD, and because I was on the science track, and he comes in, he's kind of just standing there, and he's looking out the window, and he just starts talking, and he's not actually doing anything from his syllabus, and he starts kind of mumbling. He's like, "What is a PhD in education?" He's like, "You have a doctorate in education." It's like, what does that even mean? And he's going on. He starts saying, "Well, if you have a master's degree in any discipline, you're a teacher. If you have a PhD in any discipline, by default, you are an educator. If you have a PhD in physics, you are an educator. That is why they bestowed that. You've researched accomplishments. You are an educator. How do you get a degree in education of an educator?" And you could tell what had happened. He'd gotten cross with some doctor somewhere that apparently had a PhD in education, and he wasn't having it, and he was pissed off because there is a stratification in college. Let's just be real here. If you're in the engineering college or you're in the computer science program, and you have you're taking a statistics course, or you're taking a calculus course, it's not the same statistics or calculus course that they're teaching over in the business college. We would run across people when I was in college, like some guys in business school, and he'd be, "Oh yeah, man, my statistics course is just, it's just killing me, and we're all like, "Shut the fuck up, you punk!" Like, you know what I mean? Like, they're not equal, they're not the same. Like, don't even come at me, bro. So there's that.
Well, I will interject here because I looked it up. We were talking about it. In 2007, Dr. Jill received her Doctorate of Education, which is an EDD.
That's right. Okay.
In educational leadership.
Okay.
And that's from the University of Delaware. Her dissertation was Student Relation at the Community College, Meeting Students' Needs. That was her dissertation. And
that was her dissertation.
Yeah, and that's great. That's an awesome accomplishment. I'm not shitting on her accomplishment. I mean, that's great. But an EDD in educational leadership is a far fucking cry from being a brain surgeon.
She doesn't have a PhD.
No, she does not.
Because I guarantee you, if there was a PhD after her name, bitch would be using it. There's not a PhD there.
Well, she's using it now, and she doesn't have a PhD after her name.
I know, boy, just PhD. What I'm saying is, if there was a PhD there, if it was a PhD, if she had an EDD and PhD, or if she could hang she's so concerned with her Dr. Jill, if she could hang a PhD behind that, I'm Dr. Jill PhD. She would do it.
Oh, now, absolutely.
Let me tell the second story that many years later is kind of related to the first story with the Professor Kingsfield from when I was in undergrad.
Yeah.
So I was dating this woman who was a PhD candidate at a university. And she had her master's, and she was teaching master's and undergrad courses in the grad school and in the college, and she was also working on her PhD in education. She was an education major, and I remember talking to her, and she had described one of her courses. Like, this is a master's level course. And the master's level course was making bulletin boards for a classroom. Like, this was a class. Like, this is a graduate level class on a
Really?
PhD track, and it's how to make bulletin boards in a classroom. Now, mind you, I mean, look, I was dating her. Obviously I'm interested. I wasn't going to torpedo her over it. I'm just kind of listening. But I remember just going back to college and like dudes in business college bitching about their statistics courses. And it's like, dude, get the fuck out of here with this bullshit. So she was, it is what it is, and it's fine. And she turned out to be, I remember, like, here's an aside for this podcast. I remember one time going out to dinner with her, and we're walking in, I get out of the car, and we're going to walk in, she's like, can you just leave your gun in the car? I'm like, no. She's like, can you just for me one time? I'm like, no. She's like, why do you need a gun in a restaurant? I'm like, I always have a gun on me. Well, she's like, well, could you just please, I'm like, no. And like, please. And she really, this was a conversation we had. Obviously, we weren't destined to make it, right?
Oh, so, no, that's pretty much of a relationship deal breaker.
Like, seriously, this
flag.
really happened. This really happened. So some years later, at another restaurant, I'm sitting, waiting to be seated. They're like, oh, yes, sir, we'll be with you in a minute. And I'm sitting down in a restaurant and at a little bench, and she walks in with her father. Her father was I think a police chief, retired police chief. But she didn't see me, and I believe she was getting married, and I think they were having like a dinner or something. And so I see her. They come in. I really, my key that she was there is I recognized her voice, and she walks up to the receptionist, the people standing there to greet you at this nice fancy restaurant. They must have had a room like up on the second floor, like a private party room. And she goes, "Yeah, I'm here for the reservation for Dr. It's under like Dr. Smith. I'm not going to say her name, Dr. Smith." And I remember sitting there going, "You out of your fucking mind, going through life telling people you're a doctor in a restaurant because you have a PhD in education." Like bulletin board girl. Like didn't wish her any ill will, but it was just one of those, like, there's a whole universe of these fake, like these not
self-entitled,
like, self-aggrandizing, monikers and whatever to hang on your resume to make yourself look important. And I just am like, this is crazy. Like,
well, it's interesting because along the same story you're talking about, I was talking to a friend of mine, and he's a pharmacist, and he's got a doctorate in pharmacy. It's called a Pharm D.
It's not a PhD.
No, it's a PHARM.D.
Yeah, it's a Pharm D. I don't believe it's actually a PhD.
No, it's not a PhD. It's a Pharm D.
I know it's a Pharm. No, it's. I know what you're saying. It's a Pharm D. It's a real degree, but I have to look it up. But it's not. I don't believe that person wrote a PhD dissertation.
No, he's not. It's not a PhD. It is not. And I remember him telling me the story because we were actually talking about doctorates in pharmacy and how all the people that have been pharmacists for 30 plus years just have master's degrees. But if you go into, we've talked about this before about how colleges set up all these bullshit doctorate programs and whatnot. So anyway, he fell into that group where he had to have a doctorate to get his pharmacy degree. So anyway, he was saying when his daughter was applying to colleges, he was in talking to a counselor, and the counselor was going over, all his daughter's records, and he's like, the only time I've ever actually used or used the moniker of doctor was when he was in his daughter's college, I don't know what you call it, when you meet with your counselor to set up, college career tracking or whatever. But he's like, this lady was talking so down to us, like we were garbage. And and this guy's not a stupid guy, and he's like, when it was over and he had to sign his name on the form, he signed it Dr. Joe Schmo, because I'm not going to mention his real name, but he signed it Dr. Joe Schmo. And she looked at that, and she looked at him, and he just smiled at her, and he's like, at that point in time, he's like, I really punched it through to where she really felt like the asshole, because she's talking down to him like they're fucking like illiterate hillbillies. He's like, it was so infuriating. He's like, but he's like, we're talking about my daughter's college career. He's like, so I kept my cool, but that was his dig at her at the end.
Well, yeah, and again, that's in the academic circles, and that's completely appropriate. Like, Jill Biden, because she's apparently going to teach at one of the schools there in Washington, which is fine, because I recall she did that when she was in the White House, where she was in the Naval Observatory as the number 2. But you put that on your syllabus, your syllabi. You put it on your business card. You use it in the venues in which, in the United States, you use the doctorate phrase or moniker in venues in which, you're using it. Like our PhD doc is a, I mean, like, he's not just a PhD doc. Like, I'm not trying to say shit out of turn, but he's a serious PhD. Like his work is still cited. Like our PhD doc, if he leaves the country, this is no joke. He has to tell the FBI that he's leaving the country because the shit that's in his head, China would love to have it, and they like to keep an eye on. He's not a bullshit PhD, and he never uses it. We call him Doc just to make him cringe.
Well,
so we can feel important. There's a doctor around.
Well, we also call him Doc because we're not going to mention his real freaking name either.
But sometimes we call him Doc, but that's we almost use it like freezer meat, like it's a nickname. You don't get to choose your call sign.
No one likes their nickname.
No one likes their nickname. But Jill Biden's going through life. Jill Biden, you know what? The new title of this episode is Jill Biden's new name is Dog Balls. So
yeah, exactly, Dog Balls. Wow, that's awesome.
She's going through life. She thinks she's Maverick. I call me Maverick. It's like, no, your call sign is Dog Balls, Jill. Stop it.
Yes.
No. I'm glad that's the title, because the title that you were debating at first, involving me, I'm really glad you're not going to use that.
Well, Danny, you have to go back a couple hundred podcasts to understand the whole Dog Balls moniker. But that's awesome. I mean, that is actually true to form. Jill Biden's new nom de guerre is Dog Balls.
Well, do Freeze, tell the listener the story where the Dog Balls thing comes from.
Okay. Oh my God.
If you don't remember it, I can tell it.
You go ahead and tell it. I mean, this goes back years ago. I mean, God.
So, hold on. Let me just give me a second here. I got to address something. Okay. All right. So, everyone knows the movie Top Gun. Like Top Gun, Tom Cruise. Yeah. Top Gun came out when I was, I think, basically freshman in high school, roughly, I would guess. And so, there's that movie is a fantastic movie. And oh my God, think if you watch Top Gun again, just remember something. It's worth watching even today, because almost all of the flight scenes in that movie, there's no CGI anywhere in that movie. That's all real. Yeah, they'll never do that again.
No, that's a great movie. Even the new remake of Top Gun's all CGI. It's not like the original.
They did to film that movie, Top Gun, they almost crashed. Like one of those F-14s, there's a scene. This is true. If you watch the Or maybe no, that's the one with the air. The Nimitz goes back in the. There was a scene where they filmed they were shooting down the Jap Zero in the final countdown, and the plane almost stalled out and hit the water. The F-14. But anyway, back to Top Gun. This was like a big movie, right? It's still big. It made Tom Cruise's career. Blah, 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 blah. So, of course, all the media outlets, they're like, yeah, Top Gun, F-14, what's it like? Let's find the real Top Gun. And they show up, and they're, anyone that knows anyone in the Navy, anyone that knows anyone that flies these airplanes is, like, let's do stories. Let's talk about it. The real Top Gun, the real Mavericks. What's this fighter weapons school? What is all of this? How does this work? And so they show up, one of these news outlets, I think it was Time Magazine, they show up, and they're doing a story on the real aircraft carrier wing on a real carrier.
Yeah.
And, they're taking pictures and they're doing whatever. And there's a photograph of this F-14 hooked up on its catapult, and it's got the pilot in the front, the Rio in the back, and, it's perfect. And there's the steam from the catapults and the ground crew, and they're all running around doing all their stuff. And then the guy salutes and they launch it. Well, there's a still photograph from this, and I think it's on the cover of Time Magazine. And it's got, like I'm making up the names, but it's like, let's say the front pilot, the pilot at the front's like Commander John Smith, call sign, rookie, and then like the guy in the back, the Rio, is like Lieutenant Commander Bob Smith, call sign Dog Balls. That's his real call sign, and it was on the side of the. And here's the thing: it got by the censors, it got by the magazine, and it's because that Because in 1986, you showed up, and I don't know how he got the name Dog Balls, but that was his fucking name, Dog Balls.
It doesn't matter how he got the name Dog Balls. Dog Balls was his call sign, and everyone, including the flight commander, the guy who's in the control tower that's talking to him, calls him Dog Balls because that's his call sign.
Yeah, the captain, the captain of the ship. Like all those scenes where the captain's coming up and he's talking to the XO, and like the big planes are out there, and it's like, oh no, it's 5-1. Oh my God, 5-1. The captain looks at the XO and says, "Launch the Alert 5. Get Dog Balls in the air."
Yeah, no, I mean that's the crazy thing about it, I mean, and it's just, I mean, look, it's the way it is today, even though politically, with the politically correct society we live in, I mean, you may not want to publicly announce someone's nom de guerre, but look.
My understanding is there has been a movement in the flight community to clean up some of the names. You'll notice they're not as pushy as they were 30 years ago. Like, because there's women now, like I remember there's a woman who she was with the Air Force Thunderbirds, and she was one of the first women to fly combat missions, I think, over Iraq.
So they're not going to publicly announce her nom de guerre as
they got her call sign. Because she went on and she's gone on, and like since she's got combat deployment, she was able to qualify as a command officer. Then she went to the Thunderbirds, and her entire career, her call sign's Fifi. She's probably retired now, but her name's Fifi. Like here's the thing: 30 years ago, they may have called her Hot Legs, or what's the woman from MASH? What they call that woman from MASH?
Hot Lips Houlihan.
Hot Lips. Yeah. Here's the thing. I'm pretty certain now in the Navy they're not going to call. I guarantee you there is no female pilot in the flight community in the U.S. military right now named DSL. Just saying.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that.
So Dr. Jill. So Dr. Jill, you don't get, people will call you what they want to call you. You don't get to just show up and like, call me Dr. Jill. It's like, whatever. This is another example, but going back to like the Bidens and the media, like, here's the thing. If this were the Trumps, it's like this Dr. Jill thing has been a problem for 12 years. Like I remember when she was second lady, and it was just like, barf. What the fuck, lady? Like, but what are you gonna do? Like, there's so much more to worry about in life. But it's like, the media that looks for anything to hammer people on, they've let her slide for so long. This has never come up until now.
Well, look, she was the vice president's wife, but now she's going to be the president's wife, and it's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
I have some breaking news. The Pentagon just issued a statement that the reason the Biden campaign is not getting any information is because the Pentagon is on a holiday pause. The Biden campaign says they've never agreed to any type of a pause, and that's what just came out.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, whatever.
I don't know what any of that means, because the military doesn't actually close. Like the president gets a PDB every day, presidential daily brief every day, and the CIA, they put it together, and it's like, whatever. I guess. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure there's an ulterior motive somehow.
Well, everyone's so hypersensitive and keyed up right now. Is Donald Trump going to declare martial law? Were they going to stop Joe Biden? And it's like, what are they doing to fuck with us?
Yeah.
It's
crazy.
So let's get off of Dr. Dogballs.
We have been going for, we started before we actually went live on record. We've been going for 110 minutes.
Oh, we have to get some gun content in.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what? Maybe we should save the ATF stuff to next time.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, we could end up on a joyous holiday note.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of ATF stuff to talk about, and we could actually probably fill up an entire podcast with just ATF stuff.
Yeah, apparently it does appear the ATF and the Empire is striking back, and they're not gonna let the Brace people destroy the SBR regime.
Well,
but hold on, it's not all bad, because the NRA, hey everybody, the NRA is your friend and is defending your rights, because apparently there was a mall Santa out there that told a kid he couldn't have a NERF gun for Christmas, and he got fired, but the NRA did show up at this kid's house and give him a NERF gun.
With a Santa suit, by the way.
With a suit. So the NRA, they're not going to protect your rights with the NFA, but you know what?
They're going to give a kid a NERF gun.
Little kid's going to get his NERF gun. So, hey, your dues, Wayne LaPierre, rock on. So, all right. Well, this wraps up episode 197 of the John 1911 Podcast. If you want to see any stories or pictures of links of anything we discussed, especially pictures of Kimberly Guilfoyle, please go to our website, John1911.com. That's JOHN1911.com. Remember, it's all about shooting guns and having fun. Everybody, have a good day.
Hey, see you later.
Merry Christmas to everyone.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas.